just when you think there has to be some loose ends getting tied up, there's not. Updates. We know that Lori no-showed and are still in Kauai enjoying the salt air. We're getting more and more media attention. No sign of the children. Now stay with me. There's an alleged police leak from Rexburg, and I have some information here. Then, courtesy of Justin Lum, Fox 10 Phoenix, we have a text from Charles's adult children about the death when Lori called them or texted them to tell them that their father was dead and how evasive she was about what happened. We have Lori and Tylee's police statements when Charles was killed. We have interviews with people that used to know Chad. There's a profiler that has been reading the books, saying that there are clues in Chad's book, and more, as we still wait for Tammy's autopsy, Alex's autopsy, and Lolo to go to the popo.
Dozens, if not hundreds of visions. That's a lot of clues, right?
Those are absolutely clues. Two books that I'm going to read first. Autobiography and his last publication.
We're hearing from a homeowner in Kauai who says she's got a rental application from Chad himself.
And come to mind.
Jeannie Martin says newlyweds Chad and Lori Daybell told her they relied on a sign from God to arrive at her home.
I just wanted to talk to you and see how you're doing. And JJ wants to say hi. So just give me a call back and maybe we can talk for a few minutes. I love you. Bye.
Welcome to Part 7, Missing Murder Vanished, Chad Daybell, Lori Vallow, tyleeryan, jjvallow, Part 7, Updates and Leaks. Welcome to an episode of Left Undone, Incomplete Investigations. I'm Catherine. In the comments below, I have pinned a link to a couple of social media groups that are very, very well versed in this case and have people that come and go that have some information that they post once in a while. So there is an excellent one. And then Web Sleuths is also out there and very excellent to get more information. But there was a post, and I can't tell you if it's true or not, but there was a post recently from a new member with obviously a fake profile. And what it said, now it said, in the last few days, I've been contemplating sharing some of the info I received from a law enforcement buddy. I decided I would share after reading all these posts and comments bashing Kay and the speculation that this could be a custody battle. Now, if you remember, Kay is the one that did the news conference the other day. She is JJ's biological grandmother, but Charles' sister. Okay, so legally she'd be the aunt, but biologically she is JJ's grandmother. This post goes on to say Lori was on Idaho law enforcement radar before Tammy died. They received an APB for what turned out to be Tylee's Jeep, titled in Lori and Charles' name, shortly after the attempted murder of Brandon Bordeaux in early October. Jeep was found in Rexburg. Now, remember, we haven't even gotten to this yet because there's been so much going on that I want to do updated, most up-to-date videos. But we still haven't even gone into Brandon Bordeaux and Alex and that whole mess, because remember, Alex is now dead. He shot Charles. Brandon Bordeaux had a drive-by shooting. Someone tried to shoot him. His wife Melania or Melanie or whatever her name is now married to someone else and involved with this cult and very close to Lori. And her husband was Brandon, who was attempted to be shot at. Okay, so I'll go on. So 3 days after Tammy's death, Fremont County received a tip from Arizona to look into her death. Fremont County started surveilling Chad based on that information. 1 week after her death, this LE buddy was surveilling Chad and followed him to Lori's townhouse. He then followed them to Idaho Falls to a restaurant. He went inside and sat 2 tables away from them. He showed me a picture on his phone of them sitting there holding hands that he took. They had no idea who he was. This is 7 freaking days after Tammy died. Law enforcement doesn't think the kids are alive. Oh, this just breaks my heart. They have been surveilling them long before this hit the news in early December, and there has been no signs of the kids. They knew Chad and Lori were in Hawaii when they left Rexburg. They know way more than what is being reported in the news. He said he can't wait until they can release what they know to the media. Lastly, he said, Lori is pure evil. So, folks, this was a post from someone anonymously posting, but obviously says they have a connection and a lot of information. The law enforcement person probably shouldn't have been talking. It's probably not a good idea. It's just like I'm not allowed to talk about patients as a registered nurse. I can't go and tell somebody if I have a famous person as my patient at work. I can't tell them. So if this is true, this is a big deal and this is a big leak. But it was put out there, and me here as interested in true crime also is very interested in finding the truth and knowing what is happening to those children and where they are. So I'm sharing it with you. So then the next kind of big thing that was released from Justin Lum, Fox 10 Phoenix, he posted a text conversation between Lori and Charles's adult son. One of Charles Vallow's sons shared this group chat conversation with Justin Lum from last July. Alex Cox shot and killed Charles on July 11th, 2019, around 8:30 in the morning. And the first text here on Charles' death comes the next day around 4:30 p.m. When her stepson asks what happened, the response from Lori says she's waiting on the medical examiner. The rest of the Vallow family found out about the shooting on the news. Charles' son tells me Lori danced around questions and acted nonchalant, sometimes going hours without responding. So Lori says, "Hi boys, I have very sad news. Your dad passed away yesterday. I'm working on making arrangements and I'll keep you informed with what's going on. I'm still not sure how to handle things. Just want you to know that I love you and so did your dad." Then they said, "Lori, what happened?" Lori says, "We are still waiting for the medical examiner report. I'll let you know more when I can." And then the reply from the son was, "Where is he and what happened?" Lori says, "I'll call you when I can, bub. He is in Arizona." And then he says, "Where in Arizona?" Then he says, "When did this all happen?" Then he says, "How's JJ doing?" Then he says, "What funeral home is he at?" Then he says, "Lori, what the blank happened? You can't just tell us our dad died and disappear. You're not that too busy to just let us know he died and disappear. Lori, it's been 3 hours. You're not that busy. I don't care what you're doing." Lori says, "I'm sorry you were so upset. I'm so upset too. I'm trying to get JJ ready for bed. I'm waiting to hear back from the medical examiner to make sense out of all this myself. Please be patient with me. It's a crushing situation all the way around. I'm still trying to processing it too and what it means for JJ." Then the son says, "When and where is the funeral? How did this all happen? I want an explanation." At 5:07 p.m., they send a question mark. At 7:03, this is Saturday the 13th. At 7:03 p.m., another question mark. Lori finally replies, I'm still waiting, working on arrangements and sorting things out the best I can. I'll let you know when I know. Son says, why aren't you telling me what happened? I've asked numerous times, just tell me. And then at some point she left them a voicemail, which is the next recording here. And they called her back and she never returned the call again. They never spoke to her.
Hello. I just wanted to talk to you and see how you're doing. And JJ wants to say hi. So just give me a call back and maybe we can talk for a few minutes. I love you. Bye.
Now we're going to go over Lori's police interview. Where there's blanks, they're blanking out the kids' names. So you can just put in whatever kid you think they're talking about. It's pretty easy to figure out. But this is the police interview with Lori. And it's actually rather interesting and a little bit shallow and a little bit weird. I mean, the man's laying there dead, right? So keep that in mind. And at approximately 09:43 hours after Lori had used the restroom, I obtained some personal information from Lori initially and confirmed that Lori lived at the residence where the incident occurred. I asked Lori to tell me what happened, starting at what worked for her, and I would probably ask questions. Lori stated she had moved into this house 3 weeks ago because he, the deceased, Charles, had offered to get the house here where her family was and indicated they had been in Houston. Lori advised they had decided to separate, and her husband had said he would get a house for her and blank. Lori stated the deceased was all about blank, but it was never about blank. Lori advised they had adopted blank together, and blank was actually her husband's great nephew and had been a drug baby. Lori advised that her husband travels all the time for business and he is always back and forth. Lori said her husband came the first time when she first moved from Houston and brought her some things and he hadn't been back, but it's all these threats. Lori mentioned it was on her phone all the time and I asked about the threats. Lori said I would have to see them, but he was always mad at her. Lori said he didn't want a divorce, but she didn't like him and didn't want to deal with him. Lori said they had been married for 14 years and she has dealt with it for 14 years and he has always been, quote, horrible to her, pointing to the room where blank was. Lori said he was always getting into huge fights with blank and it was a lot of things. Lori said he told her all of a sudden that he was coming Wednesday night and he wanted to see blank. Lori indicated that she had told him that she would never keep blank from him, that he could come see blank whenever he wanted, to take him to school, whatever. I asked about when she had initially left and that he had said he was going by her house, and Lori corrected me that he had said he was going to rent her a house, and she indicated all of her family is here. Lori advised that they lived here for a long time, and then he moved them to Houston. Lori advised they were there with their son, and their son didn't have anything, didn't have his school or services or anything. Lori indicated her husband ripped their son out of school and said they were moving, and Lori advised she didn't go with them at first. Lori said Charles took their son, and Lori let him take their son, and she didn't file anything. Lori then advised that Charles, filed something and told Lori she was only going to get supervised visits because she was crazy. Lori said she just didn't talk to him for like 30 days and let him take care of their son, to let her husband see what she's been doing for the last 7 years. Lori mentioned that she has other kids and has grandkids. Lori seemed annoyed that he had threatened that he would only have supervised visits of her child and mentioned that she left him to take care of the child for 30 days to see what it was like and that she knew he would be begging her to pick him up, which she stated she did. He did. Lori stated he asked her to come back, so Lori moved with them to Houston for the family. Lori said blank went with her and they left everything to go to Houston. Lori talked about the problems with getting services for their son and talked about how her husband didn't do anything. Lori indicated her husband hadn't been here in a couple weeks since her moving, and he had been nasty when he was here. Lori advised he travels for work and that he had gone back to the Houston house. Lori stated he contacted her and said he was coming Wednesday night and said he was going to pick blank up and take him to school Thursday and then pick him up Thursday and take him Friday. Lori appeared fine with that, but stated she told him that he couldn't come stay at the house because he couldn't get along with blank. Lori stated that blank is a minor. Now, I'm sure they were talking about Tylee here. And she lives there and that he gets in huge fights with blank and blank hates him. Lori told him that he couldn't stay at the house and she said she would book him a hotel. Lori advised he stays in hotels all the time when he travels for work and the business pays for it. So Lori told him that she would book him a hotel nearby. We talked briefly about what he does for a living and where he travels, mentioning that he had lived in Hawaii. Lori stated his job gives him freedom, so he doesn't have to stay home every day and take care of a special needs child. Lori indicated that she does that, mentioning that she was a single mom before they got married. Lori stated she has 2 kids and he had 2 kids and they got married and tried to make a family. Lori stated their husband had told her that he was coming last night and told him that he couldn't stay at the house and she would get him a hotel. Lori stated that blank does go to school all day and she talked about how she is just getting his services back. Lori talked about how blank has been a nightmare because her husband ripped blank out of his routine and mentioned that he only thinks of himself. Lori described how blank freaks out when he finds out dad is coming because he associates when dad took him to Houston. So Lori didn't tell blank that he was coming. Lori stated that he didn't bother her last night, which we was kind of surprised about because she was expecting kind of an ambush. Ooh, projecting? Sorry. That he would just come over and just be mean. Lori was expecting him to say that it was his house and he was on the lease so he could stay here kind of thing. Lori said that he is a macho kind of attitude. Lori stated he came this morning and she was getting blank ready. I confirmed that he came last night and indicated, yes, that she didn't hear from him except for that he texted her to say he would be there at 7:30 to pick up blank. Lori said okay and that it was good because she didn't want to hear from him. Lori said he came over in the morning and he was banging on the door. Lori said, here we go. So she just trying to be nice and had blank stuff ready for school. I asked him what time he got there, and Lori stated he would be there at 7:30, but it was more like 7:40, 7:35-ish, but she wasn't sure. Lori remembers looking at the clock at 7:30 and indicated he is usually very punctual. Lori said blank acknowledged dad and then ran to her and stated he wasn't taking him to school. Lori was telling blank that it was okay and daddy could drive him to school and she was just trying to make things calm. Lori said her husband was just being real smirky and real jerky to her. So Lori was ignoring. I asked if Lori's brother lived there with them and Lori advised no. Lori said her brother had stayed there last night because Lori was worried her husband would come over and cause trouble with her. Lori said she just wanted someone else there, wanted her brother there. Lori said she trusts her brother. Lori advised it was a long story, but she had to go live at her brother's when her husband took blank, and that has been difficult. Lori said she was getting blank stuff ready, and he was saying he was leaving in 20 minutes, mentioning it was 15 minutes to the school. Lori mentioned that you can't get there early because they don't open the gates until 8:20 or something. Lori suggested to him that they go now because she didn't want him in the house so they could go to Burger King and get breakfast. Lori advised that blank is very particular about food and he wants chicken fries and Sprite for breakfast. and you're going to give him chicken fries and Sprite. Oh my gosh. I have so much commentary, but it would take this video so long to continue. So I'll just keep going here. We can comment later. Lori told her husband to go, and he agreed. So Lori gave him the backpack, and they got in the car. Lori stated her husband always leaves something in the house, that he always comes back, and he never leaves the first time, and she was always expecting her husband to come back in the house. Lori advised he had left his phone on the counter. I asked that he had initially left with blank, and Lori confirmed that he had put blank and the backpack in the car in the driveway, and then came back in. Lori said she kissed blank goodbye, and her husband came back in. Lori said his phone was on the counter, and then Lori had his phone. He told Lori to give him his phone, and she told him, "Why don't you just show me your text that you've been texting?" Lori said he's been actually really weird, like he's been plotting something. Lori questions as to why he was here, why he was in town, and then brought up that he's been talking to her other brother who came into town the same time. Lori advised she hasn't talked to her other brother Adam in a long time, and her husband was texting him, and she was questioning us as to why they talk and if they talk. Lori said her husband had been saying all these texts like, "You're going down," and such, and that he is blaming her for their marriage breaking up and other marriages around them, calling her a destroyer of families. Lori stated he goes nuts, and then indicated that he's gone nuts before, and that she and blank have had to leave with blank before over the years 5 times, and they've stayed in a hotel for 2 days because he goes nuts. Lori said, "You don't know what's going to set him off." Lori stated blank is mad at her for always going back. Lori mentioned that they have blank and he has special needs, and it's really hard. I asked about what she means when she says he goes nuts. Lori said yelling and screaming, and I asked about physical violence. Lori confirmed grabbing and pushing them, but never punching them. Lori said he has gotten physical with blank and with her grown son. I asked physical how, and Lori stated he got in a physical fight with her son when he was 16. Lori went after blank 2 times in Hawaii, and he went like he was going to hit blank, but Lori got in between. Lori said blank was 13 and 14 at the time. I returned the conversation this morning, and Lori said he came back in and wouldn't give him back his phone, and he was screaming at her, "Give him back his phone." Lori said he was very worried about whatever was on the text that he didn't want her to see. Lori said she was just holding it there, and he was screaming at her. Lori said she was kind of walking around the house so he couldn't get it, and he was kind of reaching for it. Lori said blank came out of her room upset, and she had a bat, and blank told him to leave her mother alone. Lori said he is screaming at her, blank, "Don't you hit me with that bat." Lori said her brother Alex heard the commotion, and he came out into the main room. Lori said her husband is screaming, and he is super upset. Lori doesn't know if blank swung at him or what, but he grabbed the bat from blank and went to hit blank with the bat, and she's right there, and her brother is right there, and her brother grabbed him from behind to stop him from hitting blank. So I'm assuming they're accusing Charles that he was going to hit Tylee with the bat. Lori is motioning with her right arm, and Lori said it's to grab him and pull him back. Lori said then her brother and her husband, got into a thing, and he's hitting her brother with the bat, and they're on the ground like grappling around or whatever. Lori said it happened quickly. I asked if her brother was struck with the bat when they were grappling, and Lori said yes, that he was hitting her brother, and Lori is swinging her right arm downward. Lori said he is swinging the bat back and forth, and they are on the ground. Lori said she is freaking out and trying to go around and knows blank is in the car. Lori said her husband gets up, and he has the bat towards her, and he's motioning with her right hand as if a person would be swinging backhanded. Lori said she is going around the other side because she is trying to get out of his range so he couldn't hit her. Lori begins to say that she told blank and then explained blank is on the ground because when he took the bat from blank, she fell back. Lori told blank to go get in the car with blank with JJ. So she's telling Tylee to get in the car with JJ. because she didn't want JJ coming in, and she wanted blank out and didn't want the kids in the house for whatever this fighting was going to be. I asked what her husband or brother was yelling through all this, and Lori stated, "Get off me," and "ow," and such, but she didn't really remember specifics. Lori stated there weren't many words during the heat of that she remembered. I confirmed that blank went outside, and I asked what happened. Lori stated they got up from that, and her brother stepped back, and then Charles was coming at her with the bat, yelling at her to give him his phone. Lori stated she still had the phone in her hand, and all this happened really quick. Lori went around kind of the circle, and her brother was there. I asked how Charles was holding the bat, and she motioned with her right hand and the bat as in a backhand, and she indicated he was holding it backwards with one arm. Lori explained he was holding it in a way that if he swung it, he would have swung it backwards. Lori said she was kind of turned around, and the kids were outside, and she heard the gunshot. I asked that she heard the gunshot. I asked that she heard the shot, and she indicated yes. I asked if she actually saw the shot or if she just heard it. Lori said she had gone around to the kitchen to get away from him and then come back around, and I advised her that I had not been inside the residence. Lori said she didn't see the shot, that she heard it, and she came back around and she saw him on the ground. Sorry, everybody. It's kind of hard. I keep leaving out the blank and the blank with the names. I'm just going to go ahead and put JJ and Tylee's name in where they like. It's not like it takes Einstein to figure out where it goes and what their names are. So this report goes on. Lori got in the car and they left. I asked about when she came back in and saw him on the ground and asked where her brother was. I asked if she saw him and where he was at. Lori stated her brother was right in front of Charles, and it happened very quickly. I asked if her brother said anything to her, and Lori said no, that they were both in shock. Lori went out to check on the kids and was going to come back in, maybe, but she didn't. A couple lines of redacted information. Lori stated that she was in the car for a minute and was wondering what to do, and she didn't know what to do, and JJ was in the car, and Tylee was freaking out. She decided to take him to school and away from the scene. I asked, indicating she might not know this, but asked if she knew at what point her brother had the gun. I asked if he had it when they got in their first fight, or did he have to go get it, or if she knew that. Lori stated she didn't know. I started to ask another question, and then Lori stated she never saw him leave the room, but it was also fast. I asked if her brother normally carried a gun. Lori stated he's a gun person and that he has guns. I asked if she knew that he had a gun with him when he came over, and Lori stated no, but that she wouldn't be surprised if he did because he's a professional with guns. I asked if at any time when Lori was trying to get away and when she thought she heard the shot. I asked prior to that if she remembered her husband or brother saying anything. Lori thought about it and stated no. I asked if there was anything else that I didn't ask about or we didn't cover that was important. I added that I wasn't there, and Lori sat and thought for several moments. Lori stated that he was just so angry, super scary. Lori described how a 16-year-old acts when you take their phone away from them. That's how they disintegrate, and Lori stated that's how he was acting. Lori stated there was something on his phone that he didn't want her to see, and he was freaking out. Lori said he was freaking out to the point where she thought he would hit her in the head with the bat to get the phone. I asked if she thought it was possible that her husband would hurt her, and Lori responded, absolutely, and also Tylee. Lori stated he would never hurt JJ. Lori then added that he did hurt her brother. Lori stated he was going ballistic and it was bad. I indicated I was going to go speak with Tylee, but to make sure to let me know if there was anything else. I advised her that another detective was speaking to her brother, and I asked if there was anyone that she needed to call. Lori responded that she didn't know what she would say. I advised her that she could think about it and explain what victim services was. Lori expressed that her daughter had been through so much. We spoke about services for a moment, and I brought up JJ, and Lori commented that Tylee is used to her husband not being there, but that JJ wouldn't understand if you told him. I left the interview room for a period of time. I returned to the interview room and indicated I would introduce her to the victim services and would allow me to confer with the other detectives. I left the room briefly and returned, escorting her to a nearby conference area to allow her to speak with victim services without me. This concluded the interview. And so from there, we move on to Tylee's interview. Interview with Tylee. The interview with Tylee began at approximately 10:14 hours, and I obtained some personal information from tyleeryan. She is a 16-year-old female and appeared cooperative, calm, and understanding of the situation during my contact with her. Tylee did not appear overly emotional, and I did not notice any other issues or problems that I believed to interfere with the interview. I asked Tylee if she could tell me what happened today and told her to start with whatever place she made sense, adding that I would probably ask questions. Tylee advised that she woke up at around 7:50 because she heard yelling right outside her door. Tylee said she immediately jumped up, and Tylee stated that she had a baseball bat and explained that when she had been living at her uncle's, when she was by herself, she wanted something to feel safer, and she's not old enough for pepper spray. I explained to her that I had not been inside the house and asked about where her bedroom door opens to. Tylee explained that the room where her uncle had been staying, the guest room, is right there, where her room is, and then her little brother's room, and then the kitchen. Tylee explains it's a little hallway, and then there is the area where everything kind of happened. Tylee said it's a big room where there isn't anything, but there are mirrors up. Tylee said she immediately jumped up and she got the bat and opened the door, and it was her stepdad outside the doorway, and her uncle is kind of in the doorway, and she could hear her mom behind him. Tylee said her stepdad was screaming at both of them, but she doesn't know what he was saying. Tylee stated she told him to take a few steps back, and you're too close, and you need to step back. And he told her, don't tell me what to do. Tylee said she stood there, and her uncle kind of moved out of the way, and her mom kind of went past him and in the big room where everything happened. And she kind of walked with them. I asked if they were more in the hallway, and Tylee clarified that they were at the end of the hallway. Tylee stated her mom walked all the way around and Tylee followed them. Tylee is describing where people are and stated she didn't really do anything with the baseball bat, that she just kind of held it there. Tylee said they were both yelling, and her stepdad tells her if she hits him with the bat, then she's going to jail. Tylee said she just kind of stood there with the bat, and I asked who was yelling when she said they were yelling. Tylee stated it was mostly her stepdad, and then she said he was really the only one yelling and that her mom was responding. Tylee couldn't say what they were saying. Tylee said she kind of stuck the baseball bat out there, and her stepdad grabbed it and tried to take it, but she held on to the end. Tylee is motioning like she's holding the end with both hands and that he grabbed the other end with two hands. Tylee stated eventually she fell and he took it in his hands and he held it like he was going to do something with it. I asked that when she fell, he ended up with the bat, and Tylee confirmed that. Tylee said she fell to the ground and then she saw her stepdad take a step back, so she thinks her uncle grabbed him and took him back so he couldn't do anything. I confirmed that she saw her stepdad take a step back, and she indicated yes, that he was really close and then he went back. Tylee advised her mom told her to go with JJ, and then she ran out the door. Tylee said she stood there with her little brother. Tylee indicated he was in the front seat, so she opened the door and stood there. Tylee advised he tried to get out, and she was keeping him there. Tylee said eventually her mom came out, and they left from there. After her mom came outside with her and her brother, that she never went back inside. Tylee stated she went inside to get her mom's purse from inside so they would have her wallet. And she said she went through the garage door, went in, ran to her mom's closet, and didn't see anything or hear anything. I asked when she went inside and got her mom's purse. Tylee advised after her mom came out, and I confirmed it was after Tylee heard the loud noise, which Tylee confirmed. I asked if her mom was outside or inside when she heard the loud noise. Tylee thought for a moment and then stated she believed her mom was inside, but the door opened almost immediately after. I indicated to her that I obviously didn't know everyone, and asked her to tell me about how the three of them, her mom, her stepdad, and her uncle, were at emotionally and how they were acting. Tylee asked when it was happening or before, and I indicated when it was happening, like when she came out of her room and he took the bat. Tylee stated her stepdad looked honestly like a crazy person, screaming, and his face was beet red. Tylee stated she saw his face for a split second when he took the bat from her, and it didn't look like him, that he looked like pure rage and he was seeing rage. Tylee said that was the craziest she has ever seen him. Tylee stated her uncle was kind of calm, not super calm because it was stressful. Tylee said her uncle was just kind of standing there in the doorway being protective of her mom, but wasn't saying much. Tylee said her stepdad was yelling at her mom and her mom was just kind of talking. I asked if she remembered what she was saying or what she was mad about. Tylee advised she didn't and was sorry. Tylee doesn't remember what they were really saying and that she just heard yelling. I asked about when she woke up to yelling. I asked who was yelling. Tylee said she knew it was her stepdad. Tylee clarified, not when she was just waking up, but she remembered he was coming to take her brother, and she knew it was him. Tylee also advised she knew her uncle had stayed, and she knew that person was her uncle, and she obviously knew her mom. I indicated she stepped out of the room, and she took the bat with her, and asked if there was a reason she took the bat with her. Tylee stated it was just first instinct. Tylee said she never hit him with the bat or anything, and it was for security. And in hindsight, she probably shouldn't have brought it at all because it caused for trouble. Tylee said it was right by her bed, so she jumped up and grabbed it. I asked if there was something she was concerned about that she would have taken the bat. Tylee stated only if he would have been violent towards her mom. Tylee didn't plan to take it to do something. She took the bat to have something in her hands to feel safer. I asked Tylee if there was anything we didn't talk about or I didn't ask about that she believed was important or that I should know. I indicated to her that I wanted to make sure that I didn't miss anything, stating that it was pretty much it. I advised that we could talk again if she thought of anything and explained victim services. I left the room and returned after a period of time, escorting Tylee to her mother. So, yeah, would love to hear your comments on this. I still need to go back and like line up the times and the timeline and everything. But obviously, you know, there was time to discuss it before the police interview. And that's honestly, I did not realize, like, just when I started reading this report was the first time I realized that Tylee actually went back in to get her mother's purse, which is kind of weird because that means her mom already knew, because she said her mom said that Charles was already laying there dead. So she told Tylee to run back in and get her purse. That kind of ruffles my feathers a little bit, that one right there. Anyways, I am going to end this one. Thank you so much for watching and listening to another episode of Left Undone Incomplete Investigations. It's super helpful if you do subscribe, because it helps as I get more subscriptions, I can make more videos. I mean, it really does help with the YouTube algorithms and for me to get views, because they do take some time to make and I enjoy them. This is definitely a hobby of mine. But the subscribers would be awesome. And of course, yeah, I'm a fairly new channel and I plan on, you know, following other cases in the future. But right now, this one is so amazingly, incredibly crazy that we're just going to keep going with this one for a little bit. Because like I said, I do have a full-time job as well. So thank you again. I'm Catherine, and thanks you for watching Left Undone Incomplete Investigations, and ring the bell so you can get alerted when I post another video. Take care. Good night.